Alright guys, middle of the week, happy Wednesday. We got the Pocket Change Market Report for the middle of the week for you. We got September 20th, 2023. Alright, now's the time to strike, guys. We were bound to have this discussion one way or the other. As we're heading into the holidays, this whole thing of looking out for some of these errors and varieties in circulation, it's getting old, right? It's getting old, me repeating myself the same time every year. We ought to go out there and we should be able to look for and should actively look for some inventory, some rolls from the bank straps from the bank. There are still coin shows and shops, locally that where you could cherry pick some of these phenomenal coins. There's just a lot to look for out there today, and a few marquee 2023 change finds dated 2023. That is like easy money right now. We have one instance in this video where someone sold an entire roll of a certain quarter for well over $300, and it's something that I've talked about. It's a really nice mint error. And you guys should be striking right now while this coin is still out there in full roll form. Aside from that, overall, top to bottom, it's quite marvelous to look at all of these listings that have sold in excess of $100. We haven't had quite a stacked report like we do today. And I'm happy to bring this to you to show you guys the possibilities out there. And like I mentioned before, we don't talk about graded coins. All right, that's one of the ground rules here. Grading's unnecessary for most varieties and errors, and these coins certainly sell themselves. If you give it the chance, you could do really well. And eBay is the most user-friendly platform, one that reaches to the masses of collectors that want these coins specifically. So that's the good news. Another thing to also keep in mind, in this video, we use nothing but the original photos from the respective sellers' listings. Try saying that 10 times fast. We didn't juice or doctor any of the photos to make them look better. You are really genuinely going to get the best and worst photos that we have seen on eBay. At the very least, it's they give you kind of like a baseline or that bar that's been set for selling. If you could snap a photo with your smartphone, sometimes that can be enough. All right, so quick little update right here before we jump into the actual body of the list, which, by the way, comprises of 30 listings. Pretty busy week. We do have a Whatnot U.S. type and silver coin auction coming up this Friday, September 22nd, 2023. We are back after a 1-week hiatus. And we have some really phenomenal coins, stuff that, a lot of people only dream of owning. And you might have an opportunity here. We've had some pretty good wheels and deals happening. Some folks have been scoring some of my auctions for about 20 to 30% back of retail. So if that's not a prime opportunity to get into to this, now's the time to strike. If it's going to be your first time joining the platform, I have my referral link down below in the description box and pinned into the comments section. You can go ahead and sign up under me and score yourself $15 in usable free credit that you could use immediately upon your first purchase. So go ahead and check that out. And of course, I will have my my upcoming Friday sale pinned also into the description box too, if you just wanted to go there and bookmark it. So come join me on Friday, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. I will do a formal review of the coins I will be offering on Friday. I'll probably end up doing that tomorrow morning sometime. So please do look out for that. But I hope to see you guys there. All right, so let's see what has been selling, what's been being found, what's hot out there. We do have some paper money to talk about today. Probably have maybe 6 or 7 lots, which is pretty nice. That's pretty good. Starting out with this 1974 $10 bill, as you can see that the front of the note has kind of a mirrored halo look of what should be on the reverse of the note. They call this a wet ink transfer. So it's a back to front wet ink transfer, which is simply a transfer of ink that was on the impression cylinder due to the absence of a sheet, a subject sheet in there. And that residual ink will therefore get transferred onto the back of whatever next sheet is fed into that print chamber. And as you can see right here, all those, that print design's going to be mirrored. It's going to be backwards, so you got to make sure that's correct. This one is quite light. It's one of the more lighter wet ink transfers that I've seen in a while, which usually means that these generally don't sell for nearly as much. You might be surprised on this one, as it did sell for $179.99. And the note looks to be about a mid-level VF, maybe a 25 or 30. So, pretty decent looking note here. And of course, this is a pretty nice error that is adored by folks in the community. So if you do have them, or if you come across them, keep in mind these do carry quite a premium. The next piece of currency, we have a 1981 $1 bill. As you can see there on the right side, it's got what is referred to as a gutter fold, which is simply just a wrinkle in the sheet. So the wrinkle was never stretched out prior to any of the printing in this particular case. So it prints over the wrinkle. You could stretch out that wrinkle afterwards, and it leaves a clear empty channel there, void of any sort of ink. And this one you can see on both sides. Sometimes it's one side or both sides. Really depends on, if a BEP employee actually stretched out that wrinkle at one point prior to a specific stage of the print process. These are typically the lower end of the pool of paper money errors. All right, so don't expect for these to sell for hundreds or thousands of dollars, but how about $45.25 off of 10 bids? It's pretty good. It's 40x your money here in this particular case. And, if you don't want it in your collection, you could always sell these. I actually had great success cherry picking a few of these through local coin shops who typically don't really care too much about paper money errors. So they'll price them really low and cheap to blow them out of there. And, that represents a pretty good chance for you to cherry pick something like that and then resell it, flip it, do whatever you want to do. Okay, so you guys know me. When it comes to photography, there's one mandatory thing that you guys should do. What I say isn't gonna stop the people from shortcutting, which is what this one is. 1956 D over D repunchment mark Lincoln wheat cent. This is the only photo in that auction listing. There's no photos of the entire coin, front and back. That can be important because if there's like an unsightly carbon spot or a rim ding or a scratch or something to that effect, I think we all want to know about it. Because if you end up receiving this coin as a buyer and it has all these problems, you're going to send it back. It's going to be a waste of your time and efforts and a little bit of your money with the postage. So make sure you're doing a complete full obverse and reverse photo along with any close-ups like this one. I mean, they knocked the close-up out of the park, don't get me wrong. This is pretty nice. So this is one of the marquee varieties of the 50s. Good-looking piece right here, too. Well, the close-up, that is. It's a good-looking close-up. This one sold for $21.16 with 6 bids. Again, kind of hard to gauge exactly what the grade is here, but I would assume it's probably like a VFXF coin, which is good. It's sold for just the right amount of money. All right, so real simple here. This Lincoln cent was struck out of collar off center. All right, probably like 55-60% off center here. So what we don't have is a full readable date, which is unfortunate because these are generally collected by date, series, and all that great stuff. So the date is kind of a necessity if these are going to sell for a lot more money. And this one right here ended up mustering only $17 with 10 bids. If it had a date, it'd probably elevate up to like maybe $25 or $30 or so. So that's the difference there with these. So this one, again, a decent looking example of an off-center struck coin, but not one that personally I would be attracted to buying because it doesn't have a date. This one's actually really cool. For as long and hard as this one had circulated out there in commerce, I can't believe that no one found this until way later. 1988 $1 bill. If you check out the what they call suffix letter, so you have the prefix, which is the E, and then the Q at the very end of the serial number. If you take a look at the bottom left serial number, you'll see a rotated letter, all right, or a gas pump, or a stuck digit, or whatever you want to call it. But you can see the bottom part of the Q, and what I would suspect to be the top part of the R, which when it's stuck mid-turn like that, where you see both letters, I mean, that makes these awesome. Now, the note is pretty rough. It's got a few tears in the margin, top right corner on the reverse, and then the right margin there. This note has had a really rough life, and this one ended up selling still for $33, you know, even in this condition. So if you think that something is way too beat up or way too rough for someone else to love, you might want to check yourself, because these will sell regardless. So if you got them and you don't need them, throw them up on the open market and test it out. You'll be pleasantly surprised as to what the results are going to be. Now, this is probably one of the coolest coins this week. This is a truly double-struck Lincoln Memorial cent. What's even more miraculous is that you have two dates on here. The actual off-center double-struck part of it, which is, by the way, like 85% off-center. This thing's nutty. You can see both two dates, two mint marks. And that's really all that you could ask for on something like this. The likelihood that you'll find another one quite this nice, not very high. This one is a stunner. And I'm actually digging on the condition. It's a nice higher grade brown example, probably like an AU 55, 58 technical grade. But wow, this thing is awesome. This one right here, pretty nice price tag. It ended up selling for $211.45 with 29 bids. Again, you love to see stuff like this. They do exist out there, and these are going to be chased after. This is one of the big errors out there. So this is what would correspond to go with that previous coin, right? Because if a coin's double struck and it's got a uniface reverse like the coin we just looked at, it's going to have a locking part, all right? That's going to be a second coin. So two coins essentially were overlapping each other for a second strike, all right? So this is what they call an indent. This would be the locking piece that goes to that other coin, and both parts would be either a slight brockage or just a full indent. This one is also a little bit broad struck as well. It's a copper plated zinc composition, one of my least favorites, and it shows that pretty well here in this one. This particular coin ended up selling for $29.95, and pretty decent. But you know, if you were going to collect these, buy one that's a pre-1982 copper version. They're just going to last a lot longer, and in nicer grades, they look stunning. So what we have here, just in the event that you guys do come across these are what they call fantasy pieces. This one is a 1793 wreath cent. This is a large cent. What they did was whoever manufactured this did a double struck error on it. I don't know if it's for like the Error Society folks. I forgot the name of their group or what have you. But these things are pretty neat as more of an oddity. And these are copies, all right? And that's why it's stamped copy on the reverse. You actually want to see that as opposed not to, because if someone's trying to pass this off as real, of course, a lot of people would know. and you might get yourself in trouble if you're that offending person. But these overall, these are tokens generally made for some group of numismatists or something to that effect. They're pretty neat, kind of like a modern rendition of what a major mint error would look like on some of the more classical older coins. So this one still managed to sell for $37 with 20 bids. I'm not too familiar if whether or not there's a ton of these in the open market. $37 might be just a ridiculous overpay on this, or it might not be. Kind of hard to tell. Even fantasy pieces have a very limited production to them, especially if they go through a well-known company like Moonlight Mint or something like that. But it's very cool looking. It's not the real deal, but heck, you got to admire at least some of the attempt here with producing something very, very radical. All right, well, if you guys aren't even checking the 2009 formative years Lincoln cents, most notably the Philadelphias for these extra fingers, then I don't know what you're doing. This should be an auto look 100% of the time, because there were quite a few of them that were produced with some sort of doubled finger, doubled die reverse anomaly on these. This is actually a good one right here. You can see that extra looking finger there. So this coin is WDDR number 50. So when there's 50, there's going to be a lot more. There's actually, I think, over 100 of these in varying degrees of doubledness. This particular coin ended up selling for $10.50. They're not wildly expensive because of how many exist out there, but I will tell you this. All right, if you come across any of these BU rolls, they are fun to look through for things like this. And we also have this one here, a beautiful early date. It's so old that, there can't be too many of them. It's a 1911 Lincoln wheat cent. A little bit off center, maybe by about 10%. Some would even argue that it's probably broad struck as well, which it could be. Just a nice uncentered broad strike. This one right here ended up selling for $123.50 with 3 bids. This is a scarce date, anything prior to 1959, looking for an off-center type of coin for a date set. That is incredibly difficult. But when you do find it and they're in really nice condition without any issues to them, that's a huge W. Hey, here's another one here, I believe from the same seller, and this time in 1972. This one's off-center. Again, probably like 7-8%, nothing too crazy. Full date, it's one of the big dates with big variety potential. This one does not have any of that, though. This one sold for $28.95 with 6 bids. Here's a 1963A $20 bill. So here's another gutter fold error. Of course, as we know, that wrinkle in the sheet causes during the printing process. This one cuts, right there near Andrew Jackson's face on the portrait. And they're neat. They just don't command like tons of money. They're a good error to find if you do come across them. So this one sold for $77 with 4 bids. Condition-wise, it's probably more like a VF20 on this. And always good to see, just letting you guys know that these exist out there, and they're not particularly rare, because I do see these sell every week. This is a 1982 large date Lincoln Memorial cent that was struck through a late-stage capped die. So the hammer die, which has the obverse image, actually had a coin stuck to it. All right, so it'll strike up however many coins until the coin dislodges that's stuck to the die, or if a mint employee comes and pries it away because they recognize that it's stuck on there. This one is actually in phenomenal shape. Nice kind of like mint state red-brown condition coin that shows some of the devices poking through that very thin die cap. This one right here sold for $26.85. Again, these things are always money every time you do come across them. Usually on these you have pretty heavy weakness on one side and then a very hammered strike on the other side of them. Okay, well, like I had mentioned in the thumbnail, this is a top 10 find right here. It's a guaranteed $80+ coin. I've seen them go as high as a few $100s, but $80 to $100 seems to be the average on these. So this is a 1970D Washington quarter that was struck on dime thickness stock. So a much thinner planchet here because it's the thickness of a dime rather than a quarter. And because of that, it doesn't receive the entire pressure during the strike. So you get a lot of weakness on these. Another thing that you want to do if you do come across them is weigh them because they're going to be a full gram plus lighter in weight. Usually if you stack one of these coins in with other regular Washington quarters, you could see the difference. Now, there are a few others to look for. I believe there's one in 1971 that was struck on dime thickness stock. And then there was also the 1971D candy half dollar that struck on quarter thickness stock, which again is thinner than a candy half dollar. So make sure you keep an eye out on these. This particular one right here, by the way, is sold for $83.88. You know, these things never drop in value. It's one of the biggest errors that you could find that holds its value. It doesn't matter how many of them are being found. You know, if you know, one day 50 of these were found, they'd all sell in that $80 to $100 range in circulated shape. Just a neat one here. Nothing too crazy. They didn't know what that other number in the date was, but after taking a close look at it, it's like a 1919'S Lincoln Wheat Cent. Very weak strike on that obverse, and it looks to be a clogged die issue. You can see in God We Trust is pretty weak. The one is missing there in the date. So when we get in closer, you can barely see a 1 there. That is indeed a clogged die. Just the die is filled with grease in that device. So this particular one right here sold for $124.50. That, my friends, is a ton of money. That is a sale price that we don't normally see on these things. So yeah, I mean, if you could grab yourself that kind of cash off something like this, I would take every advantage I can on that because $125 can do a lot of things in the hobby, you know. So keep that in mind, and yeah, great sale here. Oh boy, our good old blind bat strike through. You know, this is the American Samoa back quarter, 2020 Philadelphia. Unfortunately, you can only find these on Philadelphia, but that's a massive strike through right in the Mama Face's face. Mama Bat's face. Yeah, I had to think about that one for a second. But yeah, check that out. A huge crater right there. So that's like a hardened piece of like grease and various debris bits and all that stuff that was on the die prior to the strike of this. And it's a very well-known error. These things at one point got as high as $1,000 raw. They're still very pricey. This particular one right here sold for $430.25, which is a ridiculous amount of money. There was a strike through that's a little bit bigger than what this one is, but this one qualifies as a pretty major event. Just a really nice 1984 Lincoln Mem, off-center by about 45-50% here. I'm willing to bet this is a date that some folks need for a collection. And it sold for $21.25. So, yeah, it's got some crud on the reverse, but whoever needed it, probably that didn't care to them. Here is a 1981 $20 bill. This thing is crackling fresh like it was discovered very early on, but we have a misaligned overprint. So the district seal and serial numbers are all shifted south on this one, so just a sheet shift prior to the print of that overprint. Pretty cool, very, very crazy looking note, very desirable as well. This one right here is sold for $199. There's a little bit of the back image, nice bright colors, very vivid inks, great looking margins as well. Yeah, I figure we'd go another week, excuse me, without the Extra V 2023, but here's a quick little market update. there have been a few that have sold. There was a pretty beat up one that sold for around $30, and then here's this one here that looks really nice. So there you go. It's got that little V anomaly next to the designer initials there. This one sold for $30. All right, so that's another one. And the prices just continue to kind of like drop little by little every week. We're not seeing too many of the $80 to $100 types like we did a while ago consistently. I think we had one last week that was like 113 or whatever, but it was a really nice example. We didn't have much in the way of lots. We do have two today. Here's the first one, which comprises of 5 coins, all with single sheet clips or curved clips on there. 3 Lincoln cents, a dime, and a quarter. All right. So what's the big sale point here? Well, the idea is you'll buy these and then you'll resell them individually. Normally, when people sell coins by lots or bulk, they're willing to accept a little bit less money. So this is where you kind of swoop in if the deal looks right. And this is after doing your research, of course. You got to make sure you're positioned very well on these. And then, you sell them individually. Yeah, I would probably do buy it now listings. Set your own price. Like on each of the Lincoln cents, I'd probably, ask maybe $14.99. The dime, I'd probably be around that same price, and then the quarter, probably around that same price. So there's like $75 worth of value here. This lot sold for $28.50, people. Do I need to remind you that you should probably look at lots more often, especially if you love making money? A very cool one here. I don't talk about Canadian coins that much, but we have a bimetal toonie from Canada, 1996 date. Definitely not the first one I've seen of this type. That brass core was off-center in this planchet, or whatever you call it, hybrid planchet, I suppose. So this one right here sold for $223.74. It's extremely eye-appealing. It's a very radical piece. Canadian coin collectors are fanatics about their errors and varieties because you just don't see too many of them. 1981 Lincoln Memorial. Check out the little cud die break there at the 6 o'clock position of the front of the coin. Piece of the die had broken and fallen off due to wear and tear, so it'll strike up that blob anomaly. And cuds always begin at the edge, and then they work their way into the design. So this one right here, folks, ended up selling for $39.87. And Kelly's Treasures had found a number of these rolls of the the Edith Clash quarters, Edith Kanaka Ole from earlier this year, 2023. One of the big chase finds, and if you do come across them, usually they're going to come across them in bulk in rolls and things like that. Kelly had found a few of them, had sold, a roll every so few days or whatever, with great results, and have usually accompanied them with some sort of kind of like charitable event cause. So a portion of the proceeds will go to that. So this one, if you guys need a close-up, you can see some letters from the word Edith from the reverse of the coin. This is not like one of the strongest looking ones, but they're cool nonetheless. So this was a full roll with enders that had the clash. This one right here ended up selling for $330, and that's with 35 bids, which is a phenomenal amount of money for these. And then some of the bigger clashes have sold as high as $100 to $200 since they were first discovered a few months ago. Here's an undated Jefferson Nickel that is A, broad strike, and then B, also has an indent with a partial brockage. All right. Pretty cool. Again, not everybody's cup of tea, but when you do come across it, you guys probably should be familiarized with what it is. So that way you could effectively sell these. This one right here sold for $93.25 with 6 bids. It's quite a nice high price for this thing. Here's our other lot. We have a consecutive date year set. 87, 88, and 89. Off-center struck. Very nice trio here. Is there a little possibility to flip these? Let's see. These final sale price ended up being $36 with 15 bids. $12 cost basis per coin. I don't know. It's going to be tough because me personally, I'd probably be selling these for about $19.99. You could probably go as high as like $22.99. You probably in total make about $20, $25 at the end of it all. But yeah, it might be a little bit of an opportunity here with this one. And again, the groups are the ones you should be targeting. Here's another gutter fold, but this is more of a horizontal left to right style, and these are far more scarcer. This is a 1935E silver certificate $1, and you can see that pretty massive spike thing going through the face of the note, and it also shows that on the reverse as well. This one sold for $129.95. Beautiful note. Here's a butterfly fold on a 1985 20. So there is a sheet fold on one of the corners that ended up getting printed over, as you can see here on this one. Pretty cool one. I mean, the bigger the butterfly fold, the more that these things are worth. This one right here sold for $170. Man, another one over 100. And, of course, right, another big banging error. This time an inverted overprint on this 1985 20. A lot of 1985 notes these days. It's not a miscut. It's just the overprint is, inverted. It's upside down. The sheet was rotated 180 degrees upside down from where it was supposed to be. So this one right here is sold for $510 with 24 bids. Again, do we really need to grade these things? I think not. There's a little bit of the back image there showing that very wide margin up top. Of course, 1972 Lincoln Memorial Set, double the die obverse, FS 101 in the Cherry Picker's Guide, the big boy of big boys. Oh my gosh. I love these things. These close-ups, when you see them, you begin to kind of take stock. Like, why don't I have one of these in my collection already? Well, the big reason why is they are very expensive. Like, for instance, this one ended up hammering at $310.50 with 16 bids. Goodness gracious. So yeah, these things are not cheap anymore. They're one of the big varieties to look out for in general circulation. And the final coin of this PCMR is one that I have quite an affinity to, and that's the 2021 Lincoln Shield with the massive, just catastrophic retain cut die break on the obverse. Lots of weakness there on the reverse. Man, this thing needs no introduction. This was the coin 2 years ago. The big man on campus. And even 2 years later, still a very valuable coin. This one sold for $212.75 with 11 bids. I mean, just doesn't get any hotter than that. The coin is actually in pretty decent shape. Not a top grade specimen, but a pretty good one nonetheless. Well, we've come to this point where I have to give you guys the down and dirty truth. This video is for entertainment purposes only. None of this is financial advice. So if you're coming here strictly to find a way to make some quick cash to pay a mortgage or a car note, you should not be doing this because it's education driven. You have to be motivated as well, things like that. So please do collect and grade responsibly. I throw the grade in there because I know a lot of people love doing the grading stuff. And aside from that, that's it, guys. That's all I got for you. So what are you waiting for? If you're sitting on your fingers trying to decide if whether or not you're going to go to the bank to get some inventory to search through, wait no longer. We are approaching the holiday season where everybody is going to be cashing in their piggy banks. Lots of fresh, new, unsearched inventory will be coming at you here very shortly. I mean, like, probably in the next few weeks. So, that's why I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys had a great time. Best of luck in your hunts, and hopefully, would love to hear about some of your newest finds. Go ahead, post them below in the comments section if you'd like. If you dig on that. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And folks, until next time, keep on hunting. Coinaholics, love you guys. Take care.